So hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another Flutter video, and today in this video we'll be creating a simple news application in Flutter. And as you guys can see here, we have the homepage of our app, and here we have two sections, one for the category and one for the latest news. And if you click on any of this news article, then get redirected to the full article, which we can view inside of a web view. And also we can filter the news articles or the list of articles by clicking on any of these category cards, and we will be able to see the news related to that particular category. And with this guys, let us get started. Hey guys, before starting this video, if you guys are into building cool mobile and web applications, then make sure you guys subscribe to my channel and also press the bell button so that you get notified every time I upload any video. Thank you guys, and do enjoy this video. So guys, back in the main.dart file of my new project here, what I get is the default code when you create a new Flutter project, and here we have the default counter app, as you guys can see. Now here what I'm going to do is to remove all of this code. So I'll just select all of them and just remove them, and right here I'll import the package material.dart. And after that we need to define the main method. So void main run app, and let's call it my app for now. And right here I'm going to create a stateless widget which is going to return the material app. So stateless my app widget, and this is going to return my material app. So material app. Okay, so after that what I'm going to do is to define a title for our app. So title, and let's call it daily news. And then what I can do is I can set a theme. So theme will be a theme data widget. So theme data, and inside this theme data widget I'm going to define a primary color. So primary color dot white. So after that what I'm going to do, I'm going to define a home page. So the home page for our app, so we can define it here right inside the material app widget. So we have the home attribute, and for now I'll just set it to the home page widget, which we have not created it yet. So right here inside my lib folder, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new folder, and I'll just call it as screens. And I'm going to create actually two more folders. The next one would be the models folder, and then the widgets folder. Okay, so now inside my screens folder I'm going to create a new file, and let's call it homepage.dart. and inside my homepage.dart file I'm going to import the material package. So package material.dart, and here I'm going to actually be having a stateful widget so that we can display the news, and also we can fetch the news and maybe show like a progress indicator while the news is being loaded up. So I'm just going to define a stateful widget, and let's call it home page. So it is going to return a container for now, and let's save it. Okay, so we also need to save our main.dart file, and here we can import that package or that widget by specifying the folder dot slash, and it is inside my screens folder, and this is the homepage.dart. Give a semicolon, and let's save it, and let's see what we get. Okay, so we now have this plain layout over here, and I'm also going to keep the debug show check mode banner. I'm going to set it to false. Okay, let's save it, and now we don't have that check mode banner. And now what we can do, inside of returning a container, we can return a scaffold right here, and this scaffold is going to have an app bar, and it will be an app bar widget. And inside this app bar widget I'm going to specify a title. So title, and let's call it text. Inside my text widget I'm going to give the title of our app, which is daily news. So daily news. Okay, and then we can also give some styling, but let us first save it and let us see what we get. Okay, so now we have this app bar and the title, and we also have the scaffold. And then what we can do is we can define a center title so that the title comes in the center. So center title is set to true. Let's save it. And also we can have a drawer over here, so we'll basically not do anything with the drawer, but still we can keep a drawer because it will just make it look much prettier. So drawer, we'll just specify a drawer widget, and this drawer should be inside the scaffold, not the app bar. So I'll just cut it up, I'll just paste it over here, and I'll save it. Give a comma over here and then save it. And after this, what we can do is we can actually set the elevation to 0 so that it gets synchronized with the background or the scaffold. So right here I'm going to give a comma first, and I'm going to specify the elevation set to 0.0, save it. And now we have no elevation over here. And then I can also make improve this text style a bit. So I'm going to define a style attribute to my title, and it will take a text style widget. And inside this text style widget, I can set the font size to maybe a little bit bigger, maybe 25. And yes, and after that, what we can do is also we can specify an icon. So right here, we can provide the actions, and the first one would be, actually we are going to just have one single, so it would be an icon widget. And inside this icon widget, just going to specify icons dot search. Let's save it. Okay, so now we have this icons dot search, and maybe we can wrap this up with a container and maybe add some padding. Okay, so I'm just going to wrap this with a container and then add some padding to it. So padding edge sets all, and padding of maybe 10. Okay. So now we need to give a body, and before giving the body we actually want to specify our model so that we can get access to the category section and also the news sections over here. So what we can do here is first of all, inside the scaffold, I'm just going to define the body attribute. And this body attribute is basically, first of all, we need to check if we are fetching the data or not. And if we are not fetching the data, then it's just going to show a loading spinner. And yes, so that will implement in the later part. For now, we'll just give a single child scroll view. Yes, single child scroll view. And inside the single child scroll view, what we can do is specify a child. Instead, we can also use the list view widget. So I'll just use the list view, so to make it keep it simple. So list view, and inside my list view widget, what I can do is I can specify the children which I want to get access to. So the first one would be actually the category section. So we need to build the category section, and then we need to get the news. So all the latest news, all the top 10 trending news. So yes, so this will be the list of news, or news list maybe. Yes. Okay. So now what we can do is basically go back to our models folder, and inside this models folder we can create a new file. And the first file I'm going to create, I'm going to just name it as category.dart file. And also we are going to need two more files. So the next one would be the news.dart file, and the last one would be your articles maybe. Yes, so articles.dart file. Okay, so now we have all this. We have three models, so basically one for the category, one for the article, and also one for the news. Actually it should be article, not articles, because it will just contain information about a single article. So yes, so enter. And now inside our article .dart file, we can create the class for our news article. So the information or the attribute every news article is going to have. So first of all, let me define a class. Let's call it article. And inside this article class, first of all, I'm going to define a string, the title attribute. So title, every article is going to have a title. Then it is also going to have the author of the title. author, and then we are going to have the description, and also we are going to have the image or the image URL, so image URL, and then we also going to have the date time, so I'll just specify it with date time widget. So date time, and we can get the published date, so published, and then we can also get the content, so string content, and also we are going to get the article URL so that we can display it in our web view, so article URL. Okay, so guys, now what we need to do, we need to initialize the attributes. So article, I'm going to use named arguments, so double curly brackets, and this dot title, comma, this dot description, and this dot author, and this dot content, and this dot uh, published maybe, and also we need, okay, so this one would be this dot published, and this dot image URL, and also this dot article URL. Let's save this, and and before actually moving forward, I'm going to show you the API which we'll be using in this application. So this is the API, and you can find this API by going to newsapi.org, and it is a very useful API, and yes, it is free, so that you guys just need to sign up or log in and get the API key, and then you guys will be able to use this API. So I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to show you, so I'll just save it, and as you guys can see, I get the response, and actually here we can query some values like the country, for example. So right now the country is set to the US, and also the category is set to business. So we in this video we'll also be modifying this section, so that we get information about different categories the user wants to choose, and also we can get access to different type of attributes like the author, the title, which we have defined just earlier, and the description, URL, and all these other things. And in my Chrome, I actually have an extension called JSON Formatter, and it actually makes this parsed JSON data a bit more readable. So you guys can also install it, and if I show you the raw format which you guys might be getting is this one, which is very confusing to understand. But here, as you guys can see, we get uh, nicely parsed JSON data, and also you guys need to get the API key, which I've mentioned earlier in this going to this website. And yes, so with this, let us continue. And now, since we are done with our article class, what we can do, we can go back to the category.dart file which we have created inside the models folder, and inside of it we can define our categories. So before defining our category, we need to define how each and every category model is going to look like. So basically, I'm just going to create a class, and I'll just call it category model. And inside this category model, what I'm going to do, I'm going to give a string attribute, and it would be the image asset URL. So it is going to take an image, and also it is going to take a name, so the name of the category. So yes, and I'm going to initialize all of them with named arguments. So category model, and curly brackets, and inside this I'm going to just specify this dot image asset URL and this dot name, or maybe we can just call it category name. Okay, and here also we can call it category name so that we don't get confused. So category name, and yes, this one we have extra, just put it here, and semicolon. Okay, so after that, what we need to do, we need to define the list of category models. So I'm going to just define another class, and this class will basically contain all of our categories. So categories maybe, and then inside this class we actually going to have a list, and the list will consist of category model items. So category model, and let's call it categories. Now I'll just initialize this also. So categories, and database it is dot categories. Okay, and after this, what we can do, we can actually define the list of categories. So right here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to define categories, and it will be the category list which I will be able to access in different files, and it will be the categories object which we have specified it over here. And since we have also given a parameter to our categories object that it takes a list of categories, so basically we can use the categories attribute, and basically it is going to take a list. So as it is going to take a list of category model items, so I already have the information of the categories which I need, so I'll not type it, I'll just copy and paste it up. So right here inside the list, I'm just going to paste it, and as you guys can see, we have a list of category model objects, and each category model object is going to basically take the image URL and also the name of that specific category. So right here we have the business category, and also we have the image which we are fetching from the internet, so we are using an URL. And also the same for other categories, like for entertainment and also for general health, science and sports, and all this we have the name and also the image which we are fetching obviously from the internet. And right here I actually have a typing mistake, that is the name is not matching with this. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to correct it. So yes, I've corrected it, and now after that, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to save it, and now hopefully we will be able to access this list from any other file. And yes, so let us first check it out. So right here in my homepage.dart file, what I'm going to do, I'm going to build the category section. So right here, first of all, I'm going to define a container, and inside this container I'm going to first give it some padding. So padding edge inserts dot symmetric, I'm going to give it symmetric padding, and let's give it a padding of horizontal, and let's set it to around 16. Okay, and then we can define a child, and this child would be actually a builder, so list view builder. And the list view builder actually takes an item count. So here what we can specify is the item count would be categories dot categories. Actually, let's change this because these two are actually same, so we can just call it as category list, categories list. Okay, categories list. Okay, and let's save it again, and right here we can access the length of the categories list by calling categories list dot categories dot length. Yes, and also it is going to have an item builder. So this item builder is actually going to return a category card which we are going to display here. So we can make this into make the category card in a separate widget instead of creating it here. So what I'm going to do, I think we have an extra comma here, so let me remove it. So since we'll be using the category card widget in this file, so I'll just create it in here itself. So I'm just going to define a stateless widget. So stateless widget, and let's call it category card. And this category card is actually going to return a stack, actually, because we are going to have the picture of the category and also the name over it. So yes, so we are going to use a stack widget, and inside the stack widget what we can do is we can give it some children, and the first children would actually be the image which we want to provide to it. So we can get actually, let's use the catch network image. So catch network image. So to use this widget, we actually going to need to include it in our pubspec.yml file. So going to my pubspec.yml file, under this dependency section, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy this up. So you can find it in the pub.dev website. And yes, so right here I'm just going to paste it, and I'm going to save it, and hopefully we'll be able to get the package. And then back in my homepage.dart file here, what we can do is we can actually import it. So import catch network image. Okay, so now we can use it, and inside this catch network image, what we need to provide is the image URL, and also the height and the width of the image which you want. So first of all, let us get the uh, parameters which we want to fulfill. So the first one would be the final string image URL, and also we would be needing the name or the category name. So category name, and let us initialize them. So category card, and inside of it we can get the this dot URL, and then this dot category name. Okay, and now inside this what we can do, we can specify the image URL. So image URL, and it would be actually our image URL, and then we can give it a height. So let's give it a height of around 300, and also width of around 180. Okay, now let's save it. And also we need to first of all also display the name. So before displaying the name, let us actually see if it is working or not. So it is going to return category card widget, and inside this category card widget let's give the image URL. So image URL, and this image URL will actually be the category list dot categories index dot image asset URL. Okay, let's save it. And okay, so also we can add the height to our container which holds the category card. So let's set a height, and let's give it a height of around 300. Let's save it, and I think we need to restart our app. So I'll just terminate it, and I'll just debug it again, and let's see to get. So we'll also open the terminal and go to our debug console. Okay, so we now have the images, but they are in list views. So they're actually in the vertical list view, so we need to make it horizontal. So since we are using the list view builder, so it is a vertical list by default, but we can also specify the position with the scroll direction attribute. So scroll direction, and I'm just going to set it to axis dot horizontal. Let's save it, and now we should get the images. As you guys can see, yes, we are now getting the images horizontally. So yes, that is what we want. And also maybe we want a label, so to specify that this is the category section. So right before this container, I'm going to specify a text widget, and let's call it category. Okay, so we can also give it some styling. So style, and it takes a text style widget. So text style, and inside this text style widget we can set the font weight. So I'm going to set the font weight to font weight dot bold, and then we can set the font size. So font size Let's set it to around 30. Let's save it and let's see what we get. Okay, so now we have the category option label over here. And after this, what we can do is, since we are within a stack over here in our category card widget, so we can specify uh, another layer over it. So it is basically hold the name of our category. So what we can do is, after this cached network image, we can specify a container, and this container is actually going to have the same height and width of that of this image. So let's copy and paste it, and also it is going to have an alignment, so we are going to set it to center. So alignment dot center, and then we can give it a decoration, so to make it look a bit darker so that we can get the highlight of the category name. So we can give it a box decoration, and inside this box decoration we can actually give, first of all, we can give border radius, and also we can give the color. So we can set the color to color, the colors dot black, maybe black, let's say black 38. And after that we can give it a child. So the child is basically going to be a text widget. So text widget, and this text widget will basically hold the name of our category, that is the category name. So category name, and also we can give some styling to it, and also maybe align it to the center. So text align, text align dot center, and then style. So text style, and set this text style widget, we can actually set the color to colors dot white, and then we can set the font size to around 24, and also we can set the font weight. And to make it a bit bolder, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the font weight to bold. So font weight bold. Okay, let's save it and let's see what we get. So I think we have got an error. So it is showing that the string, okay, so what we are doing the mistake here, yes, we are not passing the data of our name over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to specify category name, and then I'm going to actually send in the name of our category. So I'm just going to copy this one, paste it here, dot, and it will be category name. Let's save it, and hopefully we'll now get the names. And also we'll wrap this list view builder or maybe this category card with a padding so that we can get some spacing in between them. So save it again. Okay, so now we have the spacing, as you guys can see over here, and we now have this horizontal list of our various categories. So as soon as we hit one single category card, we actually want to see the news related to that particular category. So yes, that is what we will be implementing, and we will also be displaying the remaining rest of the news items over here, that is the top or maybe the latest news items. So for that, let me just use another label. So I'll just copy this one, and I'll paste it right below this category card or this list view builder. So I'll just paste it below, actually I'll paste it below the container. So yes, so I'll paste it here, save it. Okay, now this one would be actually latest news, and now we actually want to center this label. So for that, what we can do is I'm going to set a text align attribute to this, and I'm going to set the text align dot center, save it. Okay, so now we have this label in the center, and I'm just going to copy this up, and I'm going to paste it right here too. Just paste it, save it. And also we need to give some spacing between this section. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give a size box over here, size box, comma, then I'm going to define a height of around maybe 10, save it. And also I'm going to give the same size box over this category label. So over here, save it. Okay, so I have actually put it inside this text widget, so I'll just put it over here over the text widget. So let's save it. And yes, so now we have also got some spacing between them. And now what we can do is actually make this category cards a bit rounded so that it looks more like a card. So yes, right now it is having a very sharp border. So for that, what I'm going to do is we actually need to make sure that this image border is similar to the container so that it does not overlap or maybe make it look more uglier. So for the image, what I'm going to do, I'm going to wrap this with another widget, and I'll just call it ClipperAct widget, which we get by default. So yes, Clipper. Right, so I keep forgetting the spelling, so it is a bit confusing. So yes, so ClipperAct, and we need to now define the border radius here. But actually, let's see if we get that rounded corner. So yes, so let us define the border radius, and it would be border radius dot circular, and give it a border radius of maybe 5, or let's say maybe 10. Okay, so as you guys can see, we actually have this border radius, but since we are not including it in the container, so we cannot see it. So now what we can do, we can also specify the border radius to our container. So inside the box decoration widget, we can just write here what border radius. So border radius, and it would be border radius dot circular. Same, we need to give the same radius. So let's save it. And yes, so now we have some rounded corners over here. And also I think we can make the height of the container a bit more bigger, so I'll just give it a height of 350 around. Okay, yeah, so maybe 320, and that should be fine. Okay, so now we need to get the news items over here, so the list of the news, the latest news. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going back to my news.dart file, and inside this news.dart file we have actually nothing. So what I'm going to do, first of all, I need to create a class. So yes, so class, and I'm gonna call it as news. So what this news class is basically going to do, it will basically contain a list of news articles. So from here, and a list of maybe articles, so we need to import it. So since if I click it over here, it should automatically import this article.dart package. So if it does not, then you can just go and import it manually. And then I'll call it as news, and it would be an empty list first of all. And we actually need to fill this list up with the information which we get from the API. So right over here. So yes, so we need to push these items or these news articles to our list, to our empty list. So for that, what I'm going to do, first of all, inside my class of news, we need to define some methods. So the first method would be to get the news. So for that, it is actually a future method. So since it is returning or calling an API, so it will take time to return that information. So we are using future. So let's call it get news. And since we are using future, we need to use async await. So yes, you can also use .then and other approaches, but here I am just going to use async await. And now I am going to store my URL in a variable. So string URL, and this will be the URL which I'm going to use. So I'll just copy paste it here, and this is my API key, and you can get yours too by going to the website. And after that, what we need to do, we need to await for the response. So yes, we are going to store the response in a variable. So var response await HTTP, where we will be basically retrieving the news. So we will be using the get method, and the get method actually takes no body, so it just takes an URL. So yes, and we now also need to import the HTTP package over here. Before importing it, we need to get it first. So back in my pubspec.yaml file, under the dependencies section over here, what I need to do is basically I need to copy this, and you can find this in the pub.dev website. So just search for HTTP package and you will find this, and just copy this up and paste it over here and save it. And also now back to our news.dart file, what we can do, we can import it. So import http.dart as we are going to import it as http. And yes, so now we get the URL, and after that what we can do is we can actually decode it and store it in some format. So I'm just going to store it as JSON data equals JSON.decode, and for that you need another package called dart convert. So you just need to import it. So dart convert, so it's a basic dart package, and it is going to decode. So JSON.decode, or you can just use JSON decode, and inside this you just need to provide the response dot the body of the response, so response.body. And okay, so response. So now what we need to do is we actually need to map the JSON data to our article attributes, and push that article item or object to our news list, and then access the information from our news list. So for that, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to check if the response comes out to be okay. So if JSON data status, so we are going to check the status. So if you guys look at the API, you can see that we have a status over here. So it is set to okay since we are receiving this information. So the status is basically set to okay. So yeah, so what we are going to check, if this status is okay. So if it is okay, then we are actually going to loop through each and every item we get in our response. So, or maybe each and every article. So yes, each and every article we are going to just loop through them. So it will be JSON data articles actually. So yes, so actually we are going to loop through this list, as you guys can see. So this is the list in which we are going to loop through. So I'll just keep it at the side so that you guys can refer to it. So I'll just yes, so right here what we can specify is if JSON data status is okay, then we are going to loop through. So for each, I'm using for each, and this for each actually takes an function in which we can provide the element, and yes, so this will be a function, semicolon over here, and then so we can hopefully also check if our image URL of the image and also the description is not set to null. So if element so this URL to image should not be null, because then we'll not be able to display the image. So if this is not equal to null, and also if the description is not equal to null, so element this description actually, so if this description is not equal to null, so I'll just copy this up and just paste it here, and it's not equal to null, then what we are going to do actually is we are going to store the information in an article variable, and this article variable will store it as an article object. So article object, and in this article object is now going to take some parameters. So first of all, it is going to take the the title, then it is going to take, okay, so after the title it is going to take the author, and also it is going to take other parameters such as the published date and all. So for the title, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to map the element, and it also contains the title, as you guys can see over here. So element uh, title, and then we have the author. So I'll just keep copying it up, and I'll just paste it here, and this one will be the author. And actually I'm just going to fast forward it. So guys, we now have the information of a particular news article over here, which we have retrieved from the API. So we have the title, we have the author, we have the published date, and everything. So now what we need to do is actually we need to include or add this article item to our list, which is actually empty at the beginning. So this list, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add, so news.add, and we need to add the article. So article which we actually stored it over here. So this article we need to push it, or we need to add to the list. And yes, so we can now retrieve the information of the news items. And now what we also need to include is actually we need to include the news items by category. So we need to see the specific news item which are related to a particular category. So for that I'm just going to copy this up. So I'm just going to copy this method over here, and I'm going to create a new class. So let me create a new class, and this would actually be the category news. So category news, and inside this class what we are going to have is the same list of news articles. So list article, and we'll also call it as news, and this will be a empty list at the beginning. And now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to paste it, the earlier method which we copied over here. So right here I have pasted it, and now this one would be actually not get news because we have already specified that method. So this one would be actually get category news. So this will also be an async await function, and actually now we want a different URL for this, because we will not be using the same URL, because over here we cannot specify or change the category. So I'll just remove this URL, and I'll just paste another new URL which will also hold the category, as you guys can see over here. So now what we want is actually we want to pass a parameter to this method, because we will be using this parameter to include it in our URL. So it will be a string, and it will be the category. Okay, so now here also we will be fetching it, and this part will basically remain the same, so we'll just not modify it. So that's it with our models. So we have successfully created all three of our models, that is for the article, for the category, and also for the news. Now let's save this, and now we will be able to fetch the list of the news, and also we will be able to sort the news based on a particular category. So for that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to close some files, so which I'll not be needing anymore now. And back in our homepage.dart, we actually want to display the news. So for that, what I'm going to do is actually I'll just copy the category section, or the category container which we have created earlier, and just copy it up and I'll just paste it here because this is also going to be the same. It will also have a list view builder, but the axis and the scroll direction will not be horizontal, so I'll just remove this. And then here we actually need to get access to our list of news items. So for that, what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to create a method over here so that we can get the news. So I'll just create a method. So void get news, and this will be an async await method. So yes, so right here, first of all, we actually need to define a variable for our news list. So var news list, and I'll just give a semicolon. And inside this method, what we can do is, first of all, we'll define news. So we'll have a news of news, and this will be related to our news class. So yes, it will be an instance of the class. And then we are going to await for that method. So we are going to run that method. So it will be news dot since news is actually the instance of our news class, so here we can actually access the method which is present inside our news class. So that is the get news method. So right here we can okay, get access the get news method, and we are actually going to wait for it. So that's why we are setting it to await news dot get news. And then we are going to fill our news list with the values which we get from our news dot news, actually, because we have a list inside our news class. So as you guys can see, so we need to set the value of this news list, which will be filled up by the articles which will be fetching from the API. And now we need to get access to those articles, so we'll just store it in our news list over here. So now this is actually a list. And then what we are going to do, we are just going to specify it over here. So here, actually, instead of category list dot categories dot length for our news items, we can just write here news list dot length. And here also we do not need the category card, and we will be actually needing a list tile widget. So this will actually be a list tile widget. So news tile, yes, so let's call it news tile. So I've not created this widget yet, and we are actually going to create it now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new file inside my widgets folder. So right here I'm going to create a new file. I'll just call it as news tile dot